If you're thinking about moving to the Phoenix area, there are 8 things that you definitely should know before you get here. Now, these aren't deal breakers necessarily, things that'll affect your decision one way or the other, but they are things that will make your life so much easier if you know about them ahead of time. And this is a list that I've compiled over the years based on feedback that I've gotten from clients, as well as myself being a transplant from another state. So without further ado, let's get ready to dive in. Hey everybody, this is Brian Elder, your Phoenix area relocation specialist. And if you're new to my channel, then welcome. My goal here is pretty simple. It's to give you an idea of what life is like living in Arizona. And if you like this content, if you find it valuable, it's a huge help. Please reach down, hit that like button. Also, please consider subscribing. That certainly helps me out a ton. So anyway, these are some things that you definitely need to know about before you make a permanent move to Arizona. Again, these aren't deal breakers, but they're definitely some nice to knows. So without further ado, let's jump right into the list. And at number 1, it is, of course, the weather. That's the reason a ton of people move here. It's warm, it's sunny, it's really, really nice. 8.5 months out of the year. Yeah, of course, we've got that 3.5 months of summer. That is brutally hot. But you already knew that. Anyone moving to Phoenix pretty much already knows that. If you don't, then I have no idea what kind of stuff you've been researching. But there is more to the summer than just the heat. So obviously, yeah, it's going to get up to the 110s, 118 is probably the hottest that I've felt since I've lived here. But that brews another little weather phenomenon that we get to deal with in the summer, and that is the monsoon season. And it can be intense. So just be prepared for that. Thunder, lightning, all that stuff, really powerful winds. It's going to knock trees down. It's going to dump rain in really, really intense buckets at times. And there's flash flooding and all kinds of stuff. So that's definitely something you want to prepare yourself for. Don't expect it to never rain or anything like that. We definitely get a lot of rain in the summer. And again, it can be pretty intense, and you want to make sure that your things in the yard are picked up when it's going to roll through. You can kind of tell, you'll see the clouds coming out in the distance, and you can kind of feel it when it's about to hit. Make sure that things are put away. Make sure if you've got a big trampoline, I can't tell you how many Facebook pictures I've seen of people's trampolines ending up in someone else's yard. So make sure your things are secure, and then you will survive the monsoon season just fine. Another little fun weather phenomenon we get in the summertime is a haboob. Oh my goodness, what is a haboob? It is a giant wall of dust, and you'll see them coming out in the distance. They're really not that big of a deal unless you're driving on the freeway. If you're on the freeway, they tell you, pull off, turn your lights off, and then take your foot off of the brake, because people, if they see lights, are going to think that you're like the freeway exit or something they're going to run into you. So they say, just get out of the way, turn your lights off, wait it out. They usually move through in about 20-30 minutes, and then you're all good and you can go on home. It'll get your house nice and dusty, so make sure you got a leaf blower or something. But really, those are the big things about the weather that some people maybe don't know before they come here. Definitely is something you'll want to be prepared for. At number 2, the water. Oh my goodness, the water. Everyone wants to talk about that, but we're going to talk about it in a little bit of a different way. So most people assume that this is going to be, hey, Arizona's running out of water. Well, that's not entirely true. If you follow the news, you might think that, but again, a lot of that's clickbaity stuff. It's not really based in fact. So let's give you a quick snippet on that, okay? Phoenix has 30 years of water stored up in our reservoirs. 30 years, that's a lot. And that's not counting any new precipitation. We only get 30% of our water from the Colorado River. But yes, we are in a drought. You do want to conserve water. You don't want to be wasteful or anything like that. That's silly. However, we are not drying up. People aren't freaked out about losing our water source or anything like that. It seems to be something that they've managed because, newsflash, we know that we live in a desert. This isn't anything new. We've been preparing for this since the 80s. And so every new community that's built actually has to supply what they call a certificate of assured water supply. Basically, what that means is there has to be a 100-year documentation of water that's going to be available for those residents. So every new built community has one of those on file, and you can ask for a copy of it and inspect it, and they will show you all the details. So that's my spiel about running out of water. It's not something that's imminent. However, the water that we do have, it's not tasty. So we come from the Pacific Northwest, where we had really awesome drinking water. You could drink it right out of the tap. It was no big deal. It was really, really good. The water down here, don't be taking it out of the tap unless you like things that taste awful. So that's my tip on water. Just be prepared for it. So when you're looking at houses, a lot of them will have something called an RO system. That is shorthand for reverse osmosis. Basically, it's a big fancy filtration system, and it will make your water pure and clean and really, really drinkable. We put one of those in our house, and it made a world of difference. Another thing is the water is super, super hard. And so a lot of homes will have a water softening system, and that's gonna not really make your water taste any better, but it's gonna be easier on your skin. things like that when you're taking a shower, washing your hands, or even swimming in your pool. It makes it a little bit easier to deal with. At number 3 is solar. You will get bombarded with people coming by your house pitching you solar. And it sounds like a great idea, right? We live in the desert. It's a sunny place. Why wouldn't you want to do solar? And I'm not saying it's a bad idea. It's most certainly not. Like, if you're looking to reduce your carbon footprint or anything like that, hey, solar is a great way to go. I have nothing bad to say about it in terms of that. What I do take issue with is the salespeople are so pushy, and they try to make it seem like there's this humongous financial incentive to do solar. Well, these solar systems a lot of the time are like $20,000 to $30,000. And that's going to be a huge expense that you're likely never going to recoup, especially if you're around the average of staying in your house about 5 years, which is what most people do. You're never going to see much of that back. And they will say, oh, well, it's an asset on your house. Well, as any good realtor will tell you, just because you spent $30,000 does not mean the value of your home went up by $30,000. So that's another thing to consider. So it will reduce your bill a little bit. However, most of the homes, especially the newer ones in the area, they're really well insulated. They're super energy efficient, and your energy bills in the summer, ours averages about $300 for our electric bill, which is with our air conditioner running pretty much round the clock. In the off season and the months when it's not pumping out that much energy, it's going to be more like 100 or even less than that. So it can save you a little bit in the summer months, but really it doesn't pencil out. It doesn't make this huge financial difference the way that they kind of pitch it to you. So that's just something to know. You're going to get a lot of people trying to sell you on it. Up to you whether or not you think it's good. If you're doing it for the good of the soul and all that, hey, great, go for it. But don't necessarily do it for financial reasons. It doesn't really make sense in that regard. And the other thing that happens is birds and vermin and all kinds of things will infest themselves underneath those solar panels. It gives them a nice little shield from the sun. And I can't tell you how many people I've heard have issues with that as kind of an unintended consequence of the solar panels. So do your research on it and just make sure that it's something that you don't get pressured into. So at number 4, you are going to need a car. This is a big spread out area, and we drive pretty much everywhere we go. There are certain communities that you can get away without it, I guess. Probably Tempe, Scottsdale, and maybe downtown Phoenix. But outside of those 3 spots, you're definitely going to want a car. The freeway system is really good, so it's really easy to get around. The roads are all modern and in really good shape. But definitely something that you're going to need in your journey to Phoenix is a car. And that leads us to number 5, and that is you need to prepare your car for the heat. So the summer months are really, really intense on the car. You're going to get dirty a lot. There's car washes everywhere that are going to always try to sell you an unlimited package to go through them and keep your car clean, because the monsoons, if they're frequent, are going to keep your car nice and dirty pretty much all summer long. So that's one thing to deal with. But the other, obviously, is get a nice big shield to go up in your windshield to keep the heat out, a nice shade, I guess I should say. That way you don't need the oven mitts when you grab onto the steering wheel. It'll be nice and cool because it hasn't been baking in the sun. You'll see cars jockeying for position under trees in parking lots. Even when nobody's in them, they'll all be parked under shaded trees if they're available. So you definitely want to have something in place for that. You also probably want to bring some towels to put down on the seats so that you don't burn yourselves, especially if you're like us and you have leather seats. Definitely is going to scald the legs if you're not putting down something on top of it to absorb that heat. We do the same thing for the kids in the car seat. Those get pretty warm too. We might want to make sure that they're not getting burned either. So prepare for the heat. Another thing is car batteries. They wear out super, super fast because the heat just kills those things. So they're going to maybe have half the life that they would somewhere else. Another thing just to be prepared for. Flat tires is another big one. I can't tell you how many flat tires I've had. I never got them anywhere else, but because of all the construction and all the building and things that are going on around here, the roads have a ton of debris on them, and so you're going to get some flat tires. So make sure you got a good roadside assistance program in place, and you should be just fine. Number 6, make sure you have access to a pool. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to have a pool in the backyard, although it is a game changer if you do. We did not, when we first moved into our home, we had a pool put in, which is a horrible process right now just because of the labor shortages and concrete, trying to get all that stuff. Definitely buy a place with a pool if that's what you're looking for. But at a minimum, I would make sure that I had access to a pool, because if you don't, then you're going to be stuck inside a lot in the summer. And it really is easy to get out and enjoy yourself in the summertime, even if you have a pool. And so even if you don't have one in the backyard, lots and lots of communities out here, they have big HOA pools that you can go swim in, and usually those are included in your dues. So I just make sure that I was prepared and found a community where I had access to a pool, because they're really fun in the summertime and they make life so much easier. Number 7, Do not ditch your winter clothes. Yes, we are warm most of the year, but there are a precious few months where it does get pretty chilly in the nighttime. So we're talking late November, December, January, and even February. It will get really chilly as soon as the sun goes down, which obviously is much earlier that part of the year. So we didn't get rid of all our winter clothes. You're not going to need your heavy snow jacket and things like that unless you're going up to the northern part of the state to play in the snow, which is about a 2 to 3 hour drive from here, depending on where you live. So you may still want those things. I brought skis even to use up at Snowbowl in Flagstaff. I haven't used them yet, but I did at least bring them with me. So do not get rid of that stuff because you will still use it and you'll be very, very grateful that you have it on the days when it does get chilly at night. Number 8, pest control is a must. So a lot of the people that come here, they're really concerned about the bugs. Yeah, we've got some pretty gnarly bugs. We've got big spiders, we've got scorpions and lots of critters like that. And so most of the time you can do a pretty good job of keeping those out with pest control. However, kind of one thing that we've learned, especially with talking to people who grew up here, houses either have scorpions or they don't. It's this weird phenomenon, but 2 of them could be right next to each other. One will have scorpions and one just won't. And there's really no rhyme or reason to why. It just seems to kind of be that way. So scorpions are not that big of a deal. They are creepy looking. I have only seen one that was alive, and I've seen a couple that were squished on the sidewalk, and that's really it. So you don't see them very often, and they only usually come out at night, but you do hear about people that do get them in their house. So it's something to be prepared for, and basically that means hiring a pest company to take care of it. And if you do that, that should keep them to a minimum, but obviously there's no guarantees. One thing to pay attention to when you are purchasing a house, the seller has to list if scorpions were coming into the house on the disclosure. So pay special attention to that, and it might be something to consider when you are looking into purchasing a home or not. But if you hire a good pest control company, you have them come by once a month, even once a quarter, I think is what we do. We've never had scorpions inside. So again, if you do get stung by a scorpion, it's not the end of the world. It's kind of like a bee sting. It's not a one-way ticket to the hospital. It's a pain and it's not going to feel very good, but it's not the end of the world. It's mostly creepy. People just don't like the look of them. But really, it's not something to be all that concerned about. So that sums up my top 8. And that's, again, just kind of a list of things that I've discovered from talking to clients and going through this experience ourselves. Arizona natives and longtime Arizona residents, hey, you might have some different takes, and I'd love to hear about it down in the comments if you think that there's something that I left out, and I'm sure that there is. Or again, if you disagree with some of the things I've talked about, hey, I can take that too. I'm always happy to have a discussion. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you found this helpful, give me a like, subscribe to my channel. And if you are thinking about relocating to Phoenix, I would absolutely love to help you. I've done it myself, so I can make it easier for you. Please give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. Days, nights, weekends, does not matter. I love helping you guys out. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you again soon.